Hi, this is a quick video to explain the Arcade Bits 24-inch bar top kit. It will be the same for most of our kits. At the moment we've only got the 24-inch, but we will be doing various sizes. To start off, I just want to show you what's actually included in the bar top kit when you receive it, to make sure that you've got all of the components that you should have with this set. So, starting off with the most obvious parts, and that's the sides. There are obviously two of those which are a mirror image of each other, as you can see here, and they should have a slot cut all the way around, which is for your T-moulding or edge material that you're going to use. And on the inside, you'll notice that there are plenty of holes cut into them and slots, which they will become obvious as to what they're for a little bit later when we actually put this thing together. I'll put those out of the way. The next obvious piece is the base, which is a really large solid piece of MDF with 4 of these tabs cut into it. So I'll just move that out of the way as well. Next, we've got the back pieces. So there will be one with a power hole cut out of it, which is the lower back. There is the upper back, which is a smaller piece with the vented holes. And then finally there is the main back, which is again vented but has no tabs on it. Then you've got the VESA mount, which is for your monitor, and again this has no tabs on it. Your top, which is vented for speakers, and then various other small pieces. So essentially there is 2 which are quite similar in size, but one has a large tab and one has a small tab. And again, it's important that there's one of each of those, because they will only go together in one configuration. And then lastly, there should be a control panel. This one's got 4 buttons, don't worry about that. The standard is 3 buttons, it's just for demonstration purposes. And I almost forgot, there are 2 of these wedge shapes as well, which are also really important for the kit. And then finally there's an optional part, which is the monitor bezel, which should look something like this, which isn't essential to the cabinet, but it's something that is going to allow you to mount the monitor inside. It's got a groove in here which will allow you to fit a 24-inch monitor into the machine without needing to use the VESA mount, depending on the monitor that you've got and the setup you're trying to go for. Just finishes off the front of it, but it's a non-essential part of the cabinet. Next, we'll talk about the tools that you're going to need to be able to put this together. Okay, so moving on to the tools that you're going to need. The main one is obviously a mallet, or you can use a hammer with a scrap piece of wood if you don't have a mallet, just to get the fittings into place so that they're nice and secure, because they are designed to be tight, so that it gives you the best structure and rigidity of your machine. You're going to need some PVA glue. We use the Screwfix No Nonsense PVA glue, and this is called a glue bot. I'll put a link in the description to this. These are brilliant if you're using glue regularly, which obviously we do in the workshop. You'll then need a electric screwdriver or cordless driver, as I've got here. You're going to need a few screws, so you'll need some 4x35s, 4 of those. If you're using the VESA mount, you'll need 2 modesty blocks, and then the screws for those, which we use 4x25s, and you'll need 6 of those to 2 of the modesty blocks, or cheese blocks as we call them. And that's all you'll need in terms of tools to get the machine and the cabinet put together. So let's get started in putting this cabinet together. Start with one of your side panels, and essentially each of these slots is designed to only take one of the panels that are included in the kit. You've got the marquee cut out here, and then each of these bigger tabs is for one of those panels. Now, the ideal would be to dry fit everything together first before you start off with the glue, just to make sure that you've got everything going together as you would want it to, basically. Now, each of these slots will be for different things. So the bottom has 2 slots here, and it should be flush. So where you see here, you've got the flush part of the tab. That is what will face the bottom, and then on the other side, where there is a recess, the recess part will be on the inside of the machine and the cabinet once it's built. So just line it up and then give it a little tap to put it into place, just like that. You'll then need the rest of your tabbed panels. So the larger tab of these 2 that look the same is for the front, which goes here, and that goes at the bottom of the machine. The smaller tab version goes here, and it should be that this edge is in line with the groove for the marquee panel. It will move slightly, but essentially that is how that goes into place. Next up is the top panel, which is the one with the speakers, and again that should be in line with the marquee panel. The smaller vented panel just slots in there, and that should line up with the bottom of the speaker panel. This one's been used a couple of times, so the grooves are a little bit loose. And then finally you've got the power of the the bottom of the back, which has got the power cut out, and again that works exactly the same and slots straight into that gap. This needs to just move over slightly, so I'm just going to knock that further down, and you can have the power at either the top or the bottom. It doesn't really matter. Okay, now that all of those panels are in place, as you can see there, the next panel to put in would be the bezel, if you have that, and again that fits in exactly the same, just into the slots. After you've done that and you're happy that everything's fitting together correctly, what I would do is then remove them all, drop a little bit of PVA glue into each of the holes, the recesses that the tabs go into, and then refit them together so that you've got a nice fixing, and get back to this stage. Once you've done that, the next step is to just reverse it and put the top panel or the other side panel onto the kit, which this is the bit that takes a little bit of fiddling around just to get all of the tabs into the right places, especially when it's not been fitted together before, like that. Okay. So I've got most of them in. And it's just a case of just tweaking the layout and the positioning of the panels, and then knocking them into place like that. And that's everything put together. Again, if you're doing it this way, it's probably worth putting some glue into each of the recesses, so that you've got that together and it's ready. Now, that is the assembly stage for this machine. Once you've got it to this stage, what I would recommend is then you leave it overnight, ideally with some weight on top of it, so that the joins are nice and secure. Just some weight of whatever you've got hanging around. Really, we use shop weights, but you can just use one of the big glue tubs, or a paint tin, or something with a little bit of weight, just to put some pressure onto these joints so that they are nice and secure when you come to actually put the rest of the bits together tomorrow. Okay, so for the purposes of the video, I've not left this to dry overnight. It's got a solid enough connection to be able to just show you exactly how to finish off the cabinet. Now the next step is to put in the control panel supports, which are these wedge-shaped pieces. And what these do is sit on the inside of the cabinet sides, and they should be flush with this front piece. So there'll be one for each side, and they are tapered at the ends, so you can see which side goes where. So they'll be slightly taller at the back and shorter at the bottom, because they are tapered. So this is where you need the 35mm screws, which I've got here, and the panel, the support pieces have already got a pilot hole in there ready for you to just screw them straight into place. So what you want is for them to be as close to the front as possible, and just hook them up like that. Go nice and soft, gentle with the drill, because you can easily push the screw through. And a 35mm screw is the perfect size, because these are 18mm pieces that you're using, and obviously there's two of them. The gap is a little bit tight, so you have to just be careful if you've got a larger drill. Okay, so that's that part put together. Now the control panel itself sits on top of this panel, which you can see here. So now that you have that support in place, this can now be screwed into the piece behind. And again, if you're going to use a screw, then do that, and you can put a 35mm screw in there. It's specifically designed so that you can have this sitting however you want. So if you want it to be permanently in place, you can screw it in. There are no pilot holes, just in case that isn't what you want to do. The alternative is that you could hinge the control panel and hinge it here on the front, so that you've got access to the buttons and joystick should you need to tweak any of the electronics, or have any loose connections that you want to change, or anything like that. So it's completely up to you. If you're wanting to permanently fix it, just 4 35mm screws through the top into the support panels, and that will be permanently in place. Or, like I say, you can use a hinge, like a piano hinge, and hinge it across the front, whichever suits your build and what you want to achieve sort of the best, really. So that's the control panel. So the final part that needs to be looked at is the VESA mount. So this is the panel that is going to hold your monitor in place, and it's got these cutouts so that, dependent on the configuration of the back of your monitor, you can put a bolt through here. Again, it depends on the style of monitor you've got as to the size bolt that you'll need, but this will hold the weight of your monitor and put it into the correct place for your build. Now, this is designed so that it just fits into the gap like that, and it's held in ideally by modesty blocks. So the easiest way to use these is on the back of the mounting piece, is to screw these in so that the modesty block is right up against the edge, and then so it's flush with the edge, so that when you put it into the actual cabinet, you've then got the mount already in place. So I'll just do that first. Just like that. So you've got the modesty blocks so that they are flush with the edges. And then you can put this at whatever angle you want to achieve the best viewing angle, and also dependent on the monitor that you've got. Once you're happy with it, you just hold it in place. You perhaps need a second pair of hands for this bit, and screw the modesty blocks into the side so that they are then attached to the side of the cabinet. I've already done one of these, so it has actually got some holes, so I'm going to just reuse those holes for now, just for the purposes of demonstration. So, and that will essentially be strong enough to hold the monitor in place. If you're using the bezel bracket, if we were to use these, what we would do is put the monitor into the actual bezel piece and then glue that into place and hold it in with angle brackets to give it enough strength, and we wouldn't use one of these VESA brackets. So dependent on the monitor that you're using and which kit that you've bought can vary in terms of how you put that together, but in basic terms that is essentially all that's required. So now that the cabinet has all been put together, glued, you've got your control panel supports, control panel in place, and your monitor mounted, however that is, whether it's a bezel or with the VESA mount. I've taken this out so that you can sort of see quite easily what we're trying to achieve here. So the last panel that needs to be fitted is the back panel with the vents in it. And again, this is designed in such a way that you can mount this however you like. So you can either mount it with a door hinge on the edges, or you'll be able to use a piano hinge to be able to get this into place. And it is a tight fit, so dependent on which type of hinge you use, you may just need to sand a little bit off the top and bottom and maybe the sides, dependent on the kind of hinge that you want to use in your kit and on your machine. But essentially that's the actual cabinet built and functional essentially. So that's the back. There is also the marquee panel to add in, which goes onto the front. I'll just turn this around again. So here there is a slot that is ready for the marquee panel to fit into, and it should just slot in like that. You can bend it ever so slightly because it is a tight fit, just like that, and it will hold in place. Again, you can glue this if you want to, or you can leave it as is because it won't go anywhere when it's in the slots. And that is essentially the full build of the 24-inch bartop kit. If you do have any questions, then feel free to send us an email or give us a call and we can talk you through any queries that you might have. But that is the build of this cabinet from start to finish.